Welcome to today's midday program, Utilizing Your Strength, Why Employers Love to Hire Veterans. This event is brought to you by the Alumni Veteran Network and Travis Manion Foundation. My name is Maya Hood. I am the Student and Alumni Engagement Coordinator for the University of San Diego Alumni Association. I am also a two-time alumna from the university from the class of 2017 and 18. So shout out to all of my fellow alumni on the call. And for those of you watching later, thanks for tuning in. So before I launch into introducing today's session, I just want to wish you a wonderful, healthy, and safe new year from the Office of Alumni Relations. The Alumni Association is continuing our efforts to keep alumni engaged with and connected to the university during this time. So now that we've pivoted to virtual and digital engagement, we are able to offer a wide variety of programs and initiatives, from recorded alumni interviews to virtual programs such as this. So in addition to that, today's virtual program coincides with this year's Hire USD campaign, an effort from the Alumni Association and the Career Development Center to build awareness about the importance of toreros hiring toreros. So if you or your company has an opening position, consider USD first. Learn more about Hire USD related programs and how to post a job. Please visit the business tab, benefits tab on our Alumni Association website at alumni.sandiego.edu. Lastly, just a few quick housekeeping items before we jump into the session. In addition to this live event, this program will be recorded and shared on our Alumni Association YouTube channel in the near future. We ask that you please keep your mics muted during the interview portion of the event. We also encourage you to adjust your Zoom settings to speaker view. While you're just seeing my face right now, you'll be able to see our featured speakers shortly here, and I want to make sure that you're able to see them very clearly. Lastly, if you have any questions that pop up during the program, please direct them in the chat or jot them down in your notes, and we will do our best to address them throughout the session and during the Q&A segment of the event. All right, let's get started. I'm happy to introduce Jennifer. So Jennifer, if you can unmute your mic, that would be great. Jennifer is an alumna from the University of San Diego, graduated with her bachelor's in economics in 2018, and earned her master's degree in higher education and leadership studies last May. Jennifer hopes to support students in higher education for her career. Last but not least, Jennifer serves as the Alumni Veteran Network Board of Directors for Fellowship. Jennifer, thank you so much for moderating this conversation and leading the charge today. So I'm going to go ahead and mute my mic and you can take it from here.
Thank you, Maya, and thank you everybody who's here today. Happy New Year, happy 2021. So again, thanks. As Maya mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our two guest speakers that we have here today. So maybe our guest speakers, once I introduce you, you could just kind of give a wave and we can see your faces. So I have here who is Ernesto Reyes, alumni who is Navy veteran and who graduated from USD with his bachelor's in 2017. Thank you, Ernie, for being here. Secondly, we have who is representing the Travis Manion Foundation is Emmanuel Manny Mullen, who graduated with his master's degree in 2017. So thank you, Manny, for being here. I'm going to turn it over to Manny so he could share a little bit more about the Travis Manion Foundation, and we'll kick off today's event. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Maya. Hi, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces on here. My name is Manny Mullen. I work at the Travis Manion Foundation as Senior Coordinator in our Programs Department. And TMF, we believe in investing in veterans and family members of the fallen to provide them personal development, training, community, and just a sense of well-being. And this is what we believe helps to give them ways for them to thrive. And so all of our programs at TMF are grounded in the field of positive psychology, which is the science of human flourishing. So I'm going to ask my colleague Heather if she can play this 2-minute video on positive psychology.
Most people are familiar with traditional psychology, or the study of the human brain and behavior. Researchers and practitioners primarily focus on people who are experiencing a deficiency and want to get back to feeling normal. Positive psychology, on the other hand, is the scientific study of the strengths that enable individuals and communities to thrive. Instead of looking at deficiencies and trying to repair them, positive psychology researchers and practitioners look at what makes people achieve a sense of well-being and develops tools to help others operate at their best or thrive in their lives as well. What does positive psychology mean by thriving or well-being? Principally, they mean that humans will naturally seek to achieve a state of well-being or try to thrive. We are programmed to want to live in a state of well-being, but don't always know the best way to get there. Researchers have identified at least 3 key components of well-being that individuals need in their everyday lives: meaning, relationships, and engagement. To feel a sense of well-being, all of these components must be positively functioning.
Thank you, Heather. So just to backtrack a little bit about Travis Manion Foundation, we empower veterans and families of fallen to develop character in future generations. And we have different opportunities where we invest in veterans, families of the fallen, and empower them to lead their community through service projects and just in general how to serve one another. And so for us, it's about providing a community, a place where folks can build relationships and network and contribute to overall mental health. And so when we look at this slide here that we go by, we call it MRE, which is kind of ironic to those who serve in the military, where MRE is meaning, relationships, and engagement. And we believe that these three components, when you have them, and then it gives you this sense of thriving. And so with meaning, this is where you can see where your life fits into a bigger picture and has significance. This is a very personal construct, so it'll be different for every individual. Relationships is positive psychology summed up in 3 words is other people matter, right? So as human beings, we have deep need to belong, to connect, and to bond. And so we need to develop healthy relationships and understand the expectations of what we want to give and receive that from the people in our lives as well. And for engagement, being engaged it shows that you're truly present in what you're working on and motivated in your pursuits, and you have a mental focus. So it's really how you fully invest yourself into something and finding the true enjoyment in something, in the process of something or an activity. And so time feels like it stops as you become one with music or fully engrossed in what you're doing. And I've recently just watched the movie Soul, so it talks a little bit about that. But that's neither here nor there. But that's really kind of, just to give you an idea of how we function here at TMF, helping our Spartans kind of find this sense of meaning, relationship, and engagement. And so Ernesto here is also one of our Spartans, and we're going to transition into a little Q&A. Ernesto, good to see you here. You look good. Face looks nice. Nice glasses, nice shirt. I love it all.
Thank you, Manny.
So Ernesto, at TMF, we know that the military provides a lot for you, your schedule, your food, clothes, job assignments, etc. But once you transition out, there's a high possibility that you can lose your sense of belonging and meaning in your life. And so you'll have different types of relationships, and it can be hard to engage in your new job or at school. Can you tell me how you lost your sense of MRE when you transitioned out, your sense of meaning, relationship, and engagement?
Yeah, definitely. So the big thing you mentioned it was that a big part of the military when you're in, especially at a young age when you're still developing, the military kind of becomes this like large part of your personality, kind of like your being, because especially if you're living on base, you're living, breathing, eating the military, unless you're in an area where you might have friends or family from home. Otherwise, you are spending a lot of time, you're hanging out with people that, are part of the same unit that you're in. You're eating lunch with those people, you're eating dinner with those people, breakfast. like I said, 24/7, you're eating, living, breathing the military. And so when you leave that, it can be kind of jarring, leaving that thing that you've known for 5, 10, 15 years and transitioning just to uncertainties that may lie ahead with transitioning out of the military, whether it be because you're EAOSing or retiring.
So it doesn't sound easy, and it sounds like there's a lot of anxiety in the experience. And I don't want for everyone here to think that, this sense of transition that we're talking about only is exclusive to folks in the military. I think transition is something, when we talk about it here, it's also open to all forms of transition, whether it's, a divorce, or you're moving from one state to another state, one house to another house. Maybe you're having a new kid in your life, or, there's all different forms of transition, and this applies to everyone in that way. And so I think we have a poll, right, Jen?
Yeah, so thank you, Manny, for that. So we are going to have everybody participate in a quick poll because, like mentioned, everybody can participate in this, not just our military folks in the room. So Maya's going to go ahead and share that poll real quick. It's just an easy get you all in the mindset going back to school, I guess. It's nothing like that. So please fill that out, honestly, and we will go over the results. I'm going to pick on somebody to share after and maybe share what they mean by that. So I would love a brave volunteer. And I'll give you all a couple more seconds for those folks in between lunch right now. All right, any more takers? Going once, going twice. All right. So we're gonna look at the poll real briefly. It's pretty close with meaning and relationship and then engagement. So it's actually, I don't wanna say pretty split. Can I have a volunteer, again, share what they mean? And I'm not afraid to call on people, so I love participation, especially in these Zoom meetings. Okay, let's see. Awesome. Rob, if you can unmute yourself and share what you mean.
Yeah, my name is Rob Connect. I'm a class of 2019 alum with the MA International Relations program at USD. I actually transitioned from active duty directly into my master's program. I had actually already started it. And I can tell by the poll that I was probably the only person to say engagement because I found a lot of meaning at USD and a lot of relationships translated over. But there was a little bit of a lapse in terms of engagement. In active duty, you're pretty much busy 24 hours a day, especially if you're in any kind of a leadership role. And coming into USD, finding where I belong was a little bit of a transition. And I guess I'll pause there in case you'd like for me to kind of talk through how I closed the gap.
Well, thank you for sharing, Rob. And I'm sure a lot of us can relate similarly. I will stop you there, but hopefully maybe we can come back with more Q&A time. And I'm going to switch it back over to Manny and Ernie. So thank you for sharing.
Thanks for sharing that, Rob. You left a lot of meat on the bone there, but that's okay. I'm hoping we'll probably get to some of that. Ernesto, the next question I have for you. So now you've talked about kind of coming out of the military and having to recognize what was missing. How did you regain your sense of meaning, relationship, and engagement?
So getting that sense of meaning, I think a lot of it was tied to my transition into going to college, initially starting at the junior college here in San Diego County, San Diego City College, really getting a sense of what I wanted to do with myself, reinventing myself as someone outside of the military, and understanding what aspects of my education really meant for me. So that meant, of course, finding a field of study that both satisfies me mentally and also, with those transitions in life, to include getting married shortly before transitioning out of the military. So being able to find something that was going to be able to assist me with meeting my own mental needs, as well as being able to provide for a family that I was starting to build.
So you get to junior college, right? You have that experience. In that experience, you found it. You found more engagement, more so than meaning, more so than relationships, or was it different than that?
I would say it was a little bit of a combination of the three, actually, going into college and really, especially after a few semesters of spending some time getting to know people that I saw in the same classes, especially within my major, once I decided that I wanted to get into biology, that I wanted to study biology, really getting to know those people, especially, in an environment like USD, where the class sizes are so small. Really, I was seeing the same people from one class to the other and building those relationships with those people, as well as really getting to learn, okay, I want to help out in my community, and I want to also study biology, and really trying to marry those two ideas together and pair them together so that so I can find a career path that's can kind of encompass both of those aspects for me.
Okay, so now you have that great experience. You're channeled in. You got a groove going. Now you're getting ready to transition to a 4-year school, right? What was that experience like? What did you lose? And then was there a different process that had to start over again?
Yeah, so transitioning to the 4-year university from the junior college was definitely starting all over again, almost. Even though I had taken 2 or 3 semesters of classes worth, I was really getting into this kind of meat and potatoes of the introduction classes of my major. So really taking challenging classes like calculus, chemistry, and all these classes that really put together a lot of information in a small amount of time. And I found myself struggling. There were a few classes that I had failed, and at a point, I really did lose kind of I lost my engagement with my classes and my goals that I had set forth for myself. Going back to the previous question about really trying to serve my community while also providing for my family, and kind of lost sight of that. And so, yeah, during those first few semesters at the 4-year university, I really did lose my way a little bit.
So you lose your way. Now, to me, what it already sounds like is perseverance is one of the strengths that was probably starting to work here, right? So you work through to transition out of military, you find a junior college, you get through that experience, and now you have to transition again, and now you have to kind of persevere while trying to find this new balance of MRE at this level. Okay, so in all of that, what was some strengths that helped you kind of balance any of that outside of the perseverance that I mentioned?
So going along with the perseverance, I would say the other big resource that was big with me was really tapping into my resourcefulness, and a lot of those skills that I learned while in the military was really, getting to know the folks that I was working with at the university, people at the Military and Veterans Center, people like Derek, who's here actually in this meeting today, and Amanda Etter and other folks. And also really seeing my colleagues there at the, fellow students that were studying, and also just putting in a lot of time and a lot of work into their studies, and feeding off of them and their drive to be able to really get back in touch to those two things that were very important to me, and really seeing, okay, like where do I see myself in 4 or 5 years? How do I get there, and what do I need to do to stay on that track?
So it sounds like a little bit of teamwork came in, and some social intelligence to identify the certain people that were attracting you to be a better version of yourself, and kind of lean into that. Okay,
Exactly.
awesome. So the next question I have for you then is, what's a time that you were at your best?
So I would say I was at my best, really getting into my groove in my studies. We're looking at the end of my sophomore year, beginning of my junior year at USD, really getting it, waist deep into the major, and getting to learn all those topics that really were beginning to become much more interesting to me, really beginning to apply, and pulling back from that information from all those classes and all those sessions that were challenging at first, and really seeing all of the information come together and seeing it, help me out in other aspects of my time at USD, looking for jobs and looking for career paths that seemed interesting to me.
So were you finding that, it's in the challenges then that you were able to be at your best, or was it through having some type of structure?
I would say both of those things equally, especially the challenges, because I do find myself that if I'm not being challenged, things can become, very mundane, and I don't engage with the particular task at hand very much unless I'm being challenged, and it really draws me to pull from those strengths and areas that need development, and really focus on that.
Awesome. I think, for me, so at TMF, we focus a lot on character strengths. So this is why I was really asking those questions, identifying the different strengths that I saw, and that this is also a plug for a leading with your strengths session that we would do at this next segment that we would have when we come back together. It's a leading with your strengths assessment that would help our attendees here being able to identify what their strengths would be. And so in these ways, we want to be able to identify during these hard times, during these times of uncertainty and ambiguity around transition, having to start over. These are times that bring us the most anxiety and the most stress. And so it gets very easy to look at all the things going wrong and to harp on those. But I think what we do is we focus on all the things that you're still doing right, even when things are going wrong. And we really help you to continue strengthening that and leaning on that in order to help you through that transition, if that makes sense. And so it would be, I would recommend this to everyone to come to that next session and take that leading with your strengths assessment. And so the things that you find that are good, those things come natural to you. Ernesto, what came natural to you throughout this experience that you were in at USD?
I would say the biggest thing that came natural to me, and I think it's just kind of how I've always been, even as a child, I was always very talkative. And I think that really played into my ability to network and get to know people that I was interacting with, whether it be professors, peers, or other mentors, and really being able to have them get to know me on a personal level and getting to know them on a personal level, for everyone to, for being able to make those connections, seeing, okay, you're really interested in this, you might be interested in X, Y, or Z, and really being able to make those more meaningful and thoughtful connections with people that you might not know right off the bat.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Jen, I'd like to go to the next question, but I was curious if there's anything that anything anyone wants to ask, or if there's any piece of this that anyone heard that they want elaborated more on.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. I know specifically I can relate to that. I've been, I think, out of a job now since June. And for a while, obviously during the pandemic, right, we're all at these different struggles. And so for me though, when I was thinking, when you asked like about a time about when you were at your best, and I'm like, wow, like I think like a month ago, I was like really at my best, which sounds counterintuitive to like my situation. But I think I was really digging deep of like, wow, like I have a master's degree, like I have these resources, I have this community of people, I have like, and it was almost like, wow, I can do anything. And again, I know it sounds like really cheesy, but it was really eye-opening. And it's like, I have these opportunities. And I think utilizing perseverance, I think in past experiences and tapping into those things that I know I am good at, right? Getting creative, like how can I get creative right now on Zoom and having to be online all the time? And for me, it's attending these things, even though sometimes, we all got to really pull ourselves to like attend these things. But in the long run, for me, it's knowing that I have this community, or knowing that there's other like-minded individuals that share these same values as I do. And so, yeah, so I don't know, I kind of went on a different route there. But for me, I guess a time that I was at my best or I'm at my best is when I feel I have the most support. And so I hear similar things to what you're sharing, Ernie. So thank you for that.
Thanks for sharing that, Jen. You know, as you were saying that, the one thing it made me think about and entertain me as the civilian here, right? Because I've been learning a lot of jargon and concepts, but you know, this idea around what I heard, Jen, and yours experience was like this sense of self-authorization, and I'm curious if there is a theme around, you know, this sense of being in the military and needing clearance for things, and you know, so in the civilian world, it's like we have to self-authorize, and so sometimes we need that degree to tell us like, oh yeah, like I have this degree now, because I have this degree I can now go and do this thing. But in reality, you might already have all the tools, all the strengths and the talent to be able to do the thing, but you hold yourself back because of maybe how your, you know, your positive psychology may or may not be. So it's just, you know, important to recognize those things. You know, so thank you for sharing that, Jen. Okay, Ernie, so you answered that a time that you were at your best, right? So how do you leverage your character strengths now that we've identified them, and prior military experience in a job interview, or maybe when you're networking?
Sure. So I think the biggest thing that helped me out in my job search, job hunt was really being able to keep digging and looking for job opportunities. Also that resourcefulness, tapping into those people that know where to look for job positions, because of course, you know, especially when we're looking at my degree, you know, I studied biology, and you know, you can't just necessarily always type in, you know, biologist. You kind of have to know what the terms or the job positions are called, job titles, so that you can find that position that falls into your degree path, or the education level that you have. And so being able to really get connected with those people that know, okay, you have a degree in X, and we can get you, you know, we can look in these areas, these employers, these resources to help you find positions that are related to that.
So, okay, so then you find the position, right? And so now you're getting ready to go into the interview. And, you know, let's say you're preparing for that interview. What is something that, what is some advice that you can give for folks to consider when preparing for that interview, or while being in that interview, or what are some things to caution from when sitting or and being in those kind of interviews?
Definitely. So confidence is always key. I know that that's also one of those very cliched things when it comes to interviews, but it goes a long way, having that confidence, being able to speak clearly and concisely, getting to the point with the questions, and then also being able to, like you mentioned before, being able to translate that information or that knowledge that you have from the military or any job, and being able to make it more user friendly. You know, being able to say, you know, if you operate, you know, managed a particular, you know, team in the military, being able to say, okay, well, I'm good at management, good at being able to teach groups of people, being able to being a subject matter expert on anything, and being able to learn a particular task more quickly. And also, you know, going back to this aspect of preparing for the interview, getting ready for the interview, is you know, for me, one of the biggest things that helped me out was finding a resume writing service. So there's an organization that helped me out to really take that knowledge and skill sets that I acquired in the military and being able to translate it into a more civilian friendly verbiage.
Yeah, that's very important, because I think military jargon can come with you because that's what you're familiar with. You know, when you're serving in the military, maybe that job that you had um, was something that was, you know, significant in that role. And so, you know, I think you're trying to articulate the significance of that role in the military, but in the civilian world, acronyms and even the job itself may not, quote unquote, mean anything, because they can't really imagine what that job actually looks like off paper. So it's very important that you kind of break it down in a way for civilians to understand. And at the same time, not overlook any experiences that you did have in the military as it pertains to the job that you have applied for. Same idea with anyone who's hasn't served in the military. You know, if you've only had certain types of experiences that you might think, you know, they're not important, that's not true, because I think there are strengths that exist in, you know, let's say you're a stay-at-home parent, and, you know, you're managing your household, you're managing, you know, the way things are at home. That's a skill, that's a strength that you can still speak to as it relates to the job that you're applying to. Does that make sense, Ernesto, Jen? Like, does that sound right in terms of kind of the process?
Yeah, it does. I agree.
Okay, so then why don't we go to the next question, which is, how do you use your character strengths at work, Ernesto?
Okay, so the big thing with this, that's kind of been a theme for me, especially, you know, 2020 with the pandemic and all that. Really, you know, that term of, you know, when life gives you lemons, you got to make lemonade, right? And so really, it's been almost a year since I've actually worked the position that I got hired to work in the county of San Diego. Right now, I have been reassigned to the Emergency Operations Center, helping out the county in response to the pandemic, helping, you know, our county residents that are being impacted by it. And I think since April, I've had about 3 different job titles within that Emergency Operations Center, being able to transition to these different positions, different roles as the needs of the county of San Diego shift, and what's becoming the priority in the response. And so, yeah, being able to have that flexibility, that resourcefulness, and that persistence to adapt and overcome any challenges that present themselves, and being able to learn, you know, as quickly as you can, because this is the first time anybody has ever really had to do anything like this. So we're really just kind of learning as we go.
So you definitely had to be creative, and you definitely had to still persevere and bring those strengths into the work that you're doing. So when we think about the transition now, you've right. So I actually want to backtrack. So let's say it's, you know, you graduated in 2018, right? You're preparing for that graduation, and then post-graduation life. Where's your mindset at that point, and how do you prepare for that transition?
So you're saying transitioning into the professional world, right, after college?
Right. So you're
Okay.
you're going through that last semester, because I'm just trying to think, if we have current students now and just kind of, you know, if they're in their last semester, what should they be thinking about as they're preparing for that transition, whether they will find a job directly or not?
Yeah, I mean, definitely find something that if you don't already know it, find something that you're interested in. You know, for like myself, it was helping my community. So working in local government was that option for me to be able to really impact the community directly. But it's just about finding that passion, finding that thing that keeps you driven, that keeps you motivated, and keeps you on track. And then those opportunities will present themselves in, you know, in due time. And it's a matter of finding those people that are like-minded, to be able to, you know, kind of point you in the direction, like, oh, hey, I heard about this position that's really great for you, or I know these people that work in that line of field. Maybe you can chat with them and get to know that particular job title.
Awesome. Thank you for answering those questions, Ernesto. Jen, I'm going to turn it right over to you.
Yeah, so I want to keep us on track just so we could be able to have our participants ask questions. But I do ask Ernesto if you're comfortable with it, if you want to go ahead and share kind of your info, if anybody wants to reach out to you. But at this time, I want to just again say thank you for sharing and being open about sharing your experience. I also want all those participating to know, right, that this is a 1-part anticipating of 3. So everything is building blocks, right? So it's like this introduction now of this is the strengths-based approach, with anticipation for the next one to be able to tap into those character strengths that we all do hold. And so I will pass it over right now to Eric. So for those of you who have questions, please put them in the chat. And if you don't feel comfortable answering those questions or asking those questions, just let Eric know. But again, thank you all right now for sharing your stories, and thank you, Manny. But please, if you have any questions for Manny, Ernie, even myself, or maybe just comments that you all would love to share, we would love to hear from all the participants.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Hi, everybody. And thank you, Manny and Ernesto, for doing this. I was just pondering, because you had you studied biology, and I remember I wish somebody would have told me when I was leaving the military what that was about before I jumped into it. I had a vision when I left the military that, hey, I wanted to be a doctor. So I started studying biology right out of college. And it turns out you have to be really good at science to be a doctor. And I just really like the idea of helping people. But I didn't realize that until after I'd already gone through so much of my college that I had to pivot. So I had to learn, I guess, by doing and by failing and experiencing some struggles. And I read recently, or somebody was quoting something that said, chaos often creates clarity. So maybe my questions while we're waiting for some chats to pop up is, just like a caterpillar has to kind of go through this struggle in order to become a butterfly, part of the struggle is the process. So is there some struggle? Is there something you could capstone and say, yeah, it was tough, but it was really helpful. And if I didn't have that part of the process, I wouldn't have been able to do what I've finally found what I was great at. So can you talk about that a bit? How much was the struggle? How important is that to go through the struggle? Would you eliminate or remove some piece of that? Or would you say all of this is necessary and just part of the process of moving to the next stage?
Yeah, definitely. Going to that, touching on that topic of the struggle, it is an important thing. I can attest to my time both in the military and out of these, personal and, sometimes physical struggles, especially, with military training, boot camp, and going through things like myself, I was a corpsman, so I went through the field medical training battalion, and doing, training to learn how to keep up with Marines. And so, having all those challenges, it developed me, gave me thicker skin, and really helped me be ready for life's challenges. And then also going into college, going into the professional world, those struggles in the courses, things like calculus, chemistry and organic chemistry, that they were very, difficult courses, but they really did develop me mentally to be able to look at a particular problem, not just, in the forward direction, but backwards and sometimes from the side, right. And really being able to, be inventive with how I find a particular answer to a question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess he's going to his second semester, USC freshman, and he's getting ready to move on campus. But we hear this a lot, like, why am I taking this class? Why do I need to understand that? Why is this necessary? So it's important. It's great advice for all of us to know, like, why am I doing this? What am I getting out of this? It may not be direct, it might be indirect. And how do I appreciate some of that struggle or some of those things that doesn't seem so natural? Rather than me ask the questions, because there's some questions that popped in the chat, it's probably better to just, I think many of the people who are asking the question will feel comfortable saying it out loud. So right up top, so Andrea, would you like to jump on right now and ask your question to Ernie?
Sure thing, Eric. So the title of this seminar is Why Employers Love to Hire Veterans, right? So I'd love to hear from you, Ernie, as if to, like, what part of your military experience are you at a better advantage over potentially your civilian counterparts, or what are some things that your employer specifically like based off of your military experience that you might have been hired for versus someone else?
Definitely, that's a great question. I had some notes written down related to that topic. So, once I got hired at the county, and so for those of you that don't know, I'm a health inspector for the county of San Diego. So I go out and enforce the California food safety laws. And part of the, after the training, most of the people, they get tasked to these kind of vanilla assignments to go to, different restaurants, different places to do inspections. And my supervisor, my first day, on my own as an inspector that's already gone through the training, she assigned me to go help out some of my more seasoned inspectors enforce unpermitted vendor enforcement. And so, you know, once some of my colleagues found out that I had gotten assigned to this particular task, they're like, wait a minute, like this is your first day, you know, actually inspecting on your own after your training. And so it was really because my supervisor, you know, she knew my background in the military, and she knew that, you know, because of my experiences of being able to be a little bit more authoritative and more confident with how I present myself, she felt like I was up to task to be able to go out to these unpermitted vendor enforcement operations.
Great, thank you. Maya, I love your question. So, you know, one of the things we've all learned as we started new jobs in organizations, and often we're told or reminded of all the things that we're not doing well. we need to improve on that. Maybe we think about that all the time, especially New Year's. Here's all the stuff you need to be doing better, and not the things that you're doing great and capitalize. So Maya, I know I just spoiled half your question, but if you wouldn't mind jumping on, if you feel comfortable, would you kind of ask what you were asking there in the chat window?
Yeah, no problem. Again, thank you, Ernie and Manny, for sharing your insight, and Jen for sort of leading the charge as well. So my question was, how can, you know, we continue to stay positive and focus on our strengths instead of focusing on all the weaknesses and the things that we aren't necessarily doing right, and amidst all of these tough times with COVID and unemployment and all of the things that are going on?
Right. So I had talked to Manny about this last night when we were brainstorming some stuff. And the biggest thing for me with these, you know, tough times is really taking inventory of those things that, you know, the basics in life that are still present. Being able to say, you know, I have food in my fridge, I have a roof over my head, I still have friends, even though I can't hug them or hang out with them, I can still, you know, video chat with them, text them. And so really, you know, for those of us that have significant others, you know, or significant others with us, and we can, you know, maybe find new ways to connect without driving each other crazy. And so that's really been like the big important thing for me is really taking that inventory and saying, oh, wow, you know, I really do have a lot of these things around me, and I'm very fortunate. And that helps kind of reduce the anxiety and the stress related to just the situation overall this year, for this past year.
Thanks for that. A book I'm reading that I really love, and I talked to everybody who can listen to me about it, is called I Get To by Joan Endicott, but it really helps you see the importance of just reframing what you're talking about, focusing on the positives. Anything that you feel like you have to do isn't very motivating or fulfilling, but when you reframe it and say, I get to do these things that are gonna support and do things that are encouraging or part of my strengths, it makes you feel really good and you're more motivated to do it, right? I think we have probably time for at least one more. Rob Connect, our director, has asked this question, but it's positioned for Derek Abbey, who's not necessarily on our spotlight, but has such great experience with Travis Manion as one of the directors there. So Rob, would you like to unmute and ask your question to Derek?
Sure. Yeah, I know this is a little bit unorthodox, but I did hear a shout out to Derek Abbey. I don't think I really knew that, Derek, you were directly involved with Travis Manion Foundation, and you know, knowing a little bit of that now, I'm curious about how it helped make you successful, and how, from your position of success, you're able to reach back and help other toreros on their way up too.
Yeah. Well, first, you know, where I find fulfillment, and to include all the things that Manny outlined with MRE, with is through my personal mission statement, which is to have a positive impact on as many people as possible throughout my lifetime. And I found that the Travis Manion Foundation, their values, their mission, what they were trying to do, aligned with my own, and it was a mechanism that I could leverage to have a positive impact in the community. And so started a relationship. Oddly enough, I started a relationship when I was working at USD with TMF, and then went from USD to the Travis Manion Foundation and maintain a relationship with them today as a volunteer. And so really, you know, we talk about, we use the word empowerment a lot, and and it might seem a little odd, but I don't really like that word, because it makes the assumption that I'm giving you power, and it kind of goes in line a lot with a lot of the kind of the conversations that are going on today. And I kind of reframing, like Eric said, in my mind, you have the power within you to have a positive impact on things that you care about. And that's maintaining an internal locus of control, which is a lot of what the Travis Manion Foundation, kind of says where and how can you apply action and have a positive impact on those things around you. And so that, to include their motto, if not me, then who? That's internal locus of control, have a positive impact on the thing. You do it. You don't wait for somebody else to give you permission or to empower you to do it. And so that makes me harness my power, makes other people harness their own power. It stops putting blame on other things, and you take action to have a positive impact on those around you. And so that's how I started that relationship, built that relationship, maintained that relationship. And then because of that, there's been capital that's been built that around that people think I might have something positive to say or contribute to their own pathway. And so I use that capital to connect with students, specifically student veterans, but really anybody that reaches out, I try and make space for. I speak the military language, similar shared experiences, so that there's trust and bond that's created there. And so I use that to continue that personal mission of having a positive impact on as many people as I can. So I have experience in multiple ways that can be beneficial to others, and I'm more than willing to share that. And so that's kind of how I project that, and I use my entire network to include the Travis Manion Foundation to have that impact. Did I hit all your questions?
That was great, Derek. Thank you so much. Yeah, in my consulting leadership practice, I talk to people about this thing called 100X leadership, where we need to be 100% healthy, and knowing yourself and doing all these things to invest in yourself so that you can become healthy. Like the air mask comes on, you got to take care of yourself. You got to get your oxygen on. But once you get healthy, there's this X component. It means we need to be multiplying and helping other people. And so what Derek is describing is perfect, because we're charged to go help other people. Once we get ourselves where we need to be safe and secure and thriving, it's our charge to also help others also become better and thriving. So thanks, Derek, for all you've done for USD, Travis Manion, and what you're continuing to do in the work up there in the Northwest. And I think that's about, we're at the end of our time. Am I about right there?
We have time for one more question.
Okay.
Thank you all for responding and making space for everybody to kind of respond. But we do have time for one more, which I work with individuals in this call, and I know we all have great insight. So I'm just surprised that we're under time right now, which is a great thing. So we do have time for one more question if someone would love to ask that.
And I guess while we're waiting, if anyone puts anything in the chat box, speaking to the last question, before last, about kind of like the times right now being home quarantine. And, I think the most important thing you can do right now is, especially as students, is continue to find ways to invest in yourself or your skills. If there's a class out there to enhance a skill that you have or something like that, and you're already in class because you're students, but just things that you start noticing about yourself as it relates to your own strengths, the things that you're actually good at. I think those become a little empowering for you, and then you become creative in that way, because now you're learning something different that's actually just for you, instead of the people maybe you're around or the people you're always saying yes to. So I think, what I'm saying is, how do you say yes to yourself more in a way that allows you to continue to grow, than to kind of, sit in and look at kind of where you're at and you're stuck, and just trying to move yourself along, and finding people that support you in that.
No more questions. We know it all now. Yeah, I want to thank you, Derek, for also stepping in and answering. So I wanted to give you all, right, we're all sharing that this is like a one part, this is a building block to really what it means, like the character, leading with your character strengths. And so I want to just add that in. And I know we're still a little we're early. I mean, I love to give you the gift of time if nobody's going to answer any questions, but I also wanted to give you all that plug to look out. So Maya Hood, who's our alumni relations guru, is going to be sending you all follow-up email to this event. And what that's going to include is a link for our values and actions and assessment. I know I said that in the wrong way, via. And so that's where you're going to go ahead if you choose to. It's free. It's at your discretion to answer. I think it's 10 minutes. It'll take you 10 minutes. And it'll assess like your top strengths to your areas of growth. And so I really love it. I think it's a really great tool. And I do encourage you all to complete that because our follow-up event we'll go ahead a little deeper into this discussion and talk about those strengths and how to put them into actions and how to really maximize those strengths. And so I will hand it over to Maya to share her screen with some additional resources and additional events. I also want to give a plug for not my specific event, but for AVN's next event, which will be, so please write on your calendars for February 24th, will be hosted by AVN, and it's going to be the first monthly mixer by Andrea Dame, another one of our, if you want to give a wave, another one of our directors. And so again, the follow-up to this event will not be until we're looking at March, but please join us in February for another AVN event. Are there any other directors, maybe you want to say any few last words before we close out? And again, thank you all for joining us for our first event for 2021.
But if we have time for one final thought, just to wrap it up, this is either for Ernie or Manny or whoever feels comfortable going on this. But if you go back to your old self as you were transitioning and you had this opportunity, is there any advice you would give yourself back then that you wish you knew now? What's the final word that would maybe help somebody down the road?
I think going back to my past self, I think the biggest point of advice would be that it's never too late to get started on anything. I think sometimes we get wrapped up on like, oh man, I'm 35 or I'm whatever age, and really saying, oh, I'm too old to get started on this or too old to do anything, and really go and just if you want to start something new, go ahead and start it. I mean, I've listened to so many interviews with successful people, and sometimes they shift their careers, getting close to retirement. Like recently I listened to an interview with the gentleman that started the Beyond Meats company, and he was a biochemist, if I'm not mistaken, and decided to shift, close to his retirement age in his like 60s, and decided to create this company that now is, pretty synonymous with meat alternatives.
I would say for me, it's be intentional about the people, the networks you're putting into your life. When you transition time and time again, by Derek, you meet new people, you're in different spaces and circles, they're all new. So just kind of be intentional about the energies you're putting into your life at that point, and what is going to be healthy for you to help you through that time that you're going through, and just recognize those types of relationships so that you're not surrounded by any toxic relationships that doesn't help your positive psychology.
Thank you, Eric, for kind of leading us out with that question. I want to leave any last words for Maya. If you have any closing remarks for us, thank you again so much. You did a lot for this event, so thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, just quickly, I just want to wrap up and again, thank Ernie, Manny, and Jennifer and everyone who participated in this, and for you guys for sharing your insight and your resources for us. We hope that everyone was able to gain some valuable tools and resources. And again, if you would like to view this program again, It will be shared on our Alumni Association YouTube channel at a later date. Don't forget to connect with the Alumni Association and the Alumni Veteran Network. The executive director of the Alumni Veteran Network, Rob Connect, I think is currently putting some alumni veteran links and resources in the chats. In addition to that, they will also be included in that follow-up email, so no worries there. And lastly, don't forget to check out some of the upcoming Alumni Association programs that we do have. They vary from our affinity groups to this, such like a program that we had today, and to our regional programs that we have as well. So lastly, we just really hope that you guys have a great rest of your day and take care, and really hope to see you soon at a future virtual program. Thanks, everyone.